Very excited to see you all. Since I haven't done an intro to this audience, I am Vandana Sharma. I also go by V. I am a peer to Lydia. While Lydia covers the AI ERP side, I cover customer experience. So sales, service, and customer insights fall under me. And then I also lead the advocacy team. So all of my MVPs and user group leaders, if you don't know me, I hope we get to know each other very soon. Otherwise, I hope you join our calls by the advocacy team so I get to know you more. And then you all should know Anna.
Well, yeah, also for everyone that joins the call, you need to go and check B on LinkedIn because she is I think that you mentioned right now that you're leading the UGs and all of that stuff. So I think it's a great person to have in the radar. So sorry if you get overwhelmed by LinkedIn requests. Oh, I like Dwayne. I like your hat. How is the name? Santa.
Yes.
Santa, Father Christmas, Kris Kringle, whatever. I'm just here to bring the holiday cheer while we have this great call today. So
Yeah, that's great. So yeah, that's Anna. It's Anna here. Yeah, just thank you for being here. And yeah, if you want to connect outside, just feel free to do so. And yeah, so I think that today, well, go ahead, B. You have the housekeeping.
Yes, housekeeping rules. The call is being recorded, and we will share the recording post call. Dwayne is responsible for that, and he can share how he does it. We want to make sure everybody's social. So if you feel comfortable turning your cameras on, we would love to see your face and engage with you. Please interact with each other. Use the chat feature, meeting reactions. We want you to be vocal, engaged. This is your community call. So we want to make sure you feel comfortable being a part of it. So handing over to Anna to quickly introduce our speakers today.
So today we have two very cool speakers. Yeah, and also to add to that, please interact in the chat. We've seen such great interactions and like topics come up from the chats. Like actually most of the content that we are now trying to line up for 2025 is people that dropped things in the chat saying, okay, I would like to see this or that. So just yeah, that helps us a lot to organize the upcoming calls. So today we have, as mentioned, two speakers that of course they're stars. We have Marie Wiese. In German you say Wiese, but I don't know how you say it in Weiss. Weiss, I think. Weisse. I don't know. We will try it out. They will introduce themselves and uh, and that will
You
be
go
great.
ahead. You pronounce it any way you want. I'm good
How
with
do you
it.
say it?
In Canada, we pronounce it Weiss, but I believe Visa is the correct pronunciation of it. It's actually Wiese. So which is weird because I before E except after C, but it's not spelled that way. So anyhow, but go ahead. You're doing
Okay.
great.
I thought it was, I live in Switzerland now. I'm very aware of this sort of, yeah, I don't know. I'm just like this.
You're
Sorry.
doing great.
Awesome. And of course, everyone knows André. We have him afterwards speaking about process mining, which is one of the things that I really, really like. And we've been promising to have a look at it together for HR, but we haven't yet. But anyway, so I think that without any, I don't think we have anything else to discuss. Oh, sorry. Yes.
Other than for anyone who is new and not as familiar, I did want to quickly share the links to all of the list of community events that are coming up. And then we have a few that we are calling out in this. But Dwayne or Scott, if you could share this link in the chat, it would be great. We have two links for the community events that showcases all of the upcoming events. But we do have a few that we can talk about. Anna, you
Yes.
want to talk about some of these?
Yes, of course. Just some of them are repeated from last time. Note that we will insist on them mainly because we want people from the community, from these calls, to also showcase their expertise. So call for speakers will, you see that, oh no, it closed yesterday. Anyway, you're out for this one, maybe for next time. But anyway, yeah, so in EPPC, some of you may know, it's a Microsoft Power Platform oriented, but of course, we know that the ecosystem of Microsoft is very relevant, and the most intricate we have our solutions, the best. So I think that it's a great opportunity, and I hope to see some of your faces there. You can find out, like, all the information is in the website. They have the history of all the events they've done so far. And yeah, it's quite cool, and it's also in Vienna. Who doesn't like Vienna, right?
I would love to go to Vienna.
You should, yeah. And then we have Dynamics Minds, which still open. The CFS, it's still open until January 15. The sooner you, the sooner you, the sooner you submit, the better, because we are releasing the acceptance in phases. We already had some people already accepted and so on, but here it's very wide. So we have ERP, we have CRM, and then we have, of course, Power Platform and some other topics that might not be pure tech, but more about how we land in technology, or what we can do to become better allies, or so like more into not so tech stuff. Call for speaker is open. Most of the speakers that are here have been submitted. It's an amazing conference, not only because the organizing committee is great, not because I'm part of it, but also because it's located in Slovenia and in the coast of Slovenia. So it's very, very cool place to go. What else do
Cool.
we have?
We have the Microsoft Reactor, the final one. Do you want to talk about it too?
Okay, cool. Yes, so we have Microsoft Reactor, and as you already know, it's like it's a little bit of everything gathered in one place where you could consume content that has already been created, because everything is recorded and saved on YouTube, or you can see the live or upcoming events that are happening. All of them, well, not all of them, but most of them are digital, so you don't need to go anywhere unless you're lucky to have a reactor close by. So in Toronto, there's one, and then there's some others across the world. And yeah, it's free to access, and it's super, super cool. If you want to speak in one of those, just drop me a message and I can connect you to the right person. But also, if you want to have a look at the what happened before, you can also go there and check out what's happening. I'm really sorry about my messy explanation. That's who I am.
No, that was great. I also wanted to say, of course, it's the end of the year, so our events, I think we will have more events coming up next year. If anyone in the community knows of events that we should all be aware of, please do share those as well, because we want to make sure this community call is a great way to share content for everybody. So once again, that's the link for all of the community events. And then for those of you who have been joining our call so far, we've been talking about the community call badges for a while, and we now have someone who has received our first badge in this call. Anna, you want to do a quick call out since you've been.
Of course, I would love to. So, André, congratulations. We decided to grant you the award of the engagement enthusiast because you're always interacting in the chat and also contributing to this call to be a better, a better environment for everyone to learn. Additionally, you're speaking today, so that's also a proof of your, enthusiasm.
Yes.
Good. And then we have, of course, Mary. If you can, yeah, perfect. So this is a presentation prodigy badge that because of your time and the dedication that you're putting into this call, and of course going out of your busy schedule to come here and share your knowledge with all of us. We are very grateful for that. So thank you very, very much, Marie, for being here. Good.
All right.
And of
With
course,
that,
yeah,
we are ready for our presenters.
please go ahead.
I just want to say, I think the badges are a fantastic idea. And I got my badge, my first badge, I think about a week ago. You emailed it to me and I was pretty excited. So thank
Yay.
you. Thank you for that. It was awesome.
You deserve it.
It was a lot of fun to get it, and I am a lifelong Girl Guide, so we like to sew those badges on our sashes. So when I got it, I felt right at home. I was back in my Girl Guide roots, so I really want to say thank you for that.
That makes sense.
I'm going to kick it off, and just give me 1 second here to share my screen. And I'm going to, if it's okay with everyone, can you see my screen, Anna?
Yes,
you can see it? Okay, great. And I'm just going to drop in the link in the chat box there. That's my LinkedIn profile. And I do encourage you to connect with me. I love connecting with people. So I know this is going to be a little bit out there. This presentation I've been giving over the last year. I think Lydia saw me present this in either Washington or New York and suggested that this would be a great topic for the group. And just want to mention I'm a Microsoft MVP in AI and extremely proud to be one. So I've been studying this topic for a while now, and I know you're going to wonder, like, why is she saying we can do better? So I'm going to jump into that, and I'm going to explain what I mean by that. Again, this is me. Please connect with me on LinkedIn. Love to hear from people. So for people on the call today, there's probably a lot of people who probably weren't even born in 1991, but I'm going to take you back to 1991 for a second. A lot of cool things were happening. Computers, personal computers were really starting to kick off. Nirvana was big on the pop charts. And let's just pretend we're in 1991 and your boss just provided you with this new tool called email. And I was actually working for the federal government in 1991, and I got handed this. Thank you, Andre. Thank you. Some of you probably remember 1991. And for those of you who don't, this tool called email was upon us. And when email got presented in the workplace, we were promised that email would increase efficiency and productivity, would improve communication and collaboration, and it would really help us organize our record keeping and be a lot more on top of our jobs. The reality, and from my perspective, as I continue to work through the 90s in the financial services sector, is that it created information overload, and in the beginning decreased productivity because you're trying to keep on top of email. Didn't quite have the rhythm of how email worked. There was a complete erosion of work-life balance for me personally, and it really decreased face-to-face communications. People started to hide behind email, and we saw a lot of malicious activity, malware, spam. I think this is when we really started to get on board with security protocols. And because I was working in financial services, it was a big deal. And you really had to lock things down. But the funny thing about email and the promise of email is, I want to ask the question, does it not sound familiar to you? These promises that we made about email, are we not making the same promises with AI? And so my observation, as I've been studying this really closely over the last 3 years, and we've built some products in AI, and we've done a lot of work figuring out, what's going on with some of the more public LLMs and things that are happening out there with data. I just feel as a tech community, we can do better this time around. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that. And I've really made a commitment to put my hand up, and I've been speaking at lots of events on my own dime to really talk about why I think the tech sector has such an important, such an important role to play. I love this quote, and maybe it's because I love Jerry Seinfeld, but when he gave the commencement address at Duke University this year, he said, "We're smart enough to invent AI, dumb enough to need it, and still so stupid we can't figure out if we did the right thing." And I think we've all been watching the media quite a bit of the back and forthing that's been going on with particularly big tech companies and big tech moguls talking about, should we have given Chat GPT to the world in the way that we did? So I believe that the genie's out of the bottle. It's not going back anytime soon. AI is really going to transform our world, and we have an obligation to act responsibly. And I believe that if you're a developer, you have an obligation to produce responsible AI that doesn't harm or mislead people. We've already seen some really misleading stuff that goes on with replicating voices and doing a bunch of really horrible things. But I also at the MVP Summit this year saw some really interesting AI apps that were being used for really positive things like hurricane relief and a bunch of really, really cool things that were being built. But I really believe we have to be on the right side of this. If you're a business leader, you have an obligation to bring real and useful solutions to your customers. I don't think you can sit back and say, I'm going to ignore it. Some people are still skeptical, but I think you have to do the right thing for your customers. And if you're a marketer, as I have been in the sales and marketing area of tech for quite a long time, you have an obligation to do the work and you have to avoid the shortcuts. And we're going to talk a little bit about what I see as the 4 pillars of responsible AI. We've done some research on this. We were very, very grateful to have been part of some really cool presentations that Sarah Bird at Microsoft has been bringing. She's the Chief Operating Officer for Responsible AI at Microsoft, and she's got a really interesting backstory and very powerful message that she's been bringing to the community. And I really took it to heart, some of the things that she talked about, and we've come up with what we think are the 4 pillars. Now, there's more. As I've been presenting this, people have been giving me more feedback on this, which I think is awesome. But intellectual property, data security, data and algorithm bias, and brand ethics, I think are the 4 pillars that people should really be taking a good hard look at. So let's just quickly go through some of these. AI is not generating materials out of thin air. We all know that. And they're trained on data. And I've also got a lot of really great connections in the semiconductor and chip industry. And in 2023 into 2024, there was over 1 trillion chips manufactured. Those chips are going into everything. Data is getting derived from everything. And if you do just even a quick audit in your house, and we had the Canadian user group a week and a half ago, we all got together and we talked about doing an audit of the chips in your house that's actually mining data and sending it somewhere. And people don't realize that they could have upwards of 30 different chips. So we need to really question where they're coming from. And I think we need to really question some of the things that the data is bringing to us. So we think the most important best practices are around the 3 C's: consent, compensation, and credit, giving credit to the data where it's coming from. And I know sometimes people say, well, we can't always tell where it's coming from, but I think you need to think carefully about that. You need to research stuff really carefully as you're bringing it into your organization. And that consent around how we're using things. Research is really important. You need to inform stakeholders and source verification. I think these are the things that really do matter. And if I could just get a quick show of hands in the chat, put your hand up and give me a high five or something if your organization, even if you're an independent consultant, has an AI policy and has publicly put the AI policy on your website. Give me a show of hands. Just throw it in there. Okay. I'm not seeing as many hands as I would like. And the thing is that, I think this is the next thing that we have to consider. And we, at the beginning of the year, we're members of the Responsible AI Institute, and we built a policy. We've got some templates that we've offered to people to use. And particularly being in the sales and marketing part of the industry, and we do a lot of work in CRM, and we do a lot of work with marketing automation, customer insights, that kind of thing. I think it's really important that you're transparent with people about how and where you're using AI. So obviously data security is really important. We all know that as technologists. And just because Copilot's there and Copilot Studio makes it so easy to build something, it doesn't mean that your business is ready to implement it. And I work with a lot of Microsoft partners, and I work with a lot of Microsoft ISVs. And we've been doing a lot of Copilot briefings. And, companies are just saying, like, where do I need to start? How do I need to do this? And obviously data is really important. And sorry, I noticed somebody just put in the chat, can AI write my AI policy? It sure can, but I think you got to really do some heavy lifting there and make sure that your organization adapts it to what your organization is good at. So, jumping the gun for an organization means lots of bad things. It could be legal issues if you're in a regulated industry. It could really damage your reputation. We know lots of people who are using AI-driven chatbots right now on the consumer side of the house, and it's killing their brand because people get stuck in this loop. And they haven't, customers are trying to get their issues resolved and they're stuck in a loop. I don't know if anybody on the call has been a victim of that recently. I sure have. And, I've got frustrated, like, where's the button that says talk to a live agent? So I think we really need to be working these things through, and we really need to be thinking about them. Our best practices, we work directly with a lot of cybersecurity experts, and they really know their stuff. And we always recommend to people, take a deeper dive with some of these people. They really know what they're doing. It's really important to implement access controls, data minimization, regular audits. But I think the most important thing when we help Microsoft partners talk to their customers, we always talk about, and this is going to show my age, in front of the firewall and behind the firewall. And whenever I say that, everybody always groans. They're like, why are you still talking about the firewall? But the idea is outside of your organization and inside of your organization. And I think that there's a lot of people who don't realize, like a lot of CEOs who don't realize their employees are already using AI somewhere, somehow. They're doing something with it. And so putting the policies in place, people have talked a lot in the last little while at events I've been at about putting guardrails around it. I need to dig deeper to figure out what the heck people mean by guardrails. But I do think it's very important to know what tools people are using and how they're using them. And I think you need to decide what's inside the organization and what's outside the organization. The other thing is data and algorithm bias. And, I do a lot of work in the tech sector, advancing women in tech. I run a podcast, and I invite everybody on the call today to please listen to the podcast. It's called Women Talk Tech. It's all about sharing the stories of women who have advanced in the tech sector with the idea of, raising the bar so that we can get more women into tech. Because now more than ever with AI, having a diverse voice at the table is more important than ever. And ensuring that as we're pulling information from these data lakes and from these LLMs, that there is not algorithm bias happening there. And so I think this is a really important one. The world is very full of systematic bias and prejudice. And when you add AI into the equation, it just escalates it. There's a QR code here for a fantastic podcast by Brené Brown, and I invite you to listen to it. She talks to a professor at the University of Austin, Texas, and they attempted to build a non-biased AI product and wanted it to be not biased. And they came to the conclusion after a while that it just couldn't be done. And the reason it couldn't be done is because we all start in a very different place. And so I invite you to listen to this. It's a great piece of content. And I just want to share, an example of this is we do a lot of work supporting nonprofits, and we were promoting a mentorship program for high school girls, for girls in high school, trying to get them more interested in tech. And we were looking specifically for female mentors. It was a volunteer position. and we got flagged by LinkedIn that it was a discriminatory job posting because we were looking for female mentors to mentor young women. And we then appealed it and said we didn't think it was fair that they took our post down. And within 30 seconds, I got a response back saying, no, your appeal has been overturned. So the algorithm and the tool is doing some stuff there, and it's not taking human beings into consideration. And so I think that's where we all have to start to be very careful. And I think we have to try to raise our hands when these things happen. Dr. Craig Watkins, who's part of the podcast I just mentioned, talks about building with rather than for. And I love that idea. And the reason I love it so much is because I've been in the tech sector for over 30 years, and I have, believe me, had to put my expression, and I don't know if for people on the call today, English isn't your first language. Maybe this doesn't translate well, but as a marketer, I've had to put lipstick on the pig, meaning that I've had to try to make something ugly look really attractive. And that's because I would get handed some technology product that got built, and then they wanted to throw it over the fence and see who wanted to buy it. And I think because of AI, at the speed at which we can build, I think it's really important that we build with people, not for people. And when you bring in outside people, when you bring in psychologists and sociologists and people who understand human nature as you're building these products and tools, it just means you're going to build something so much better. And when you have a broader group of people at the table, it really, really, really does matter. So make sure you're looking at diverse perspectives, you're accessing reporting systems to really understand what is the data telling me, advocate for transparency in your organizations, and really have critical assessment of AI decisions and how that's working. And the last one that's near and dear to my heart is brand ethics. And we've seen over the last 18 months the downfall of meaningful content on LinkedIn specifically. I don't know if you're like me, but boy, there's a lot of stuff out there that is causing me to pause and wonder. There's obviously lots of completely automated sales sequences that people are using. And I know that my email and text message inboxes fill up with stuff that I didn't request to receive. And I think that if we don't want it as a person and as a human being, what we don't want to deal with, then we shouldn't be using these tactics in our business. And we shouldn't be suggesting that these are the types of things we should be building. So I think this has given us some pause. Sorry, my screen just froze. This has given us some pause, and I think that it's really important that we don't use the tactics that we hate as consumers. And if we're not liking these things for ourselves, why would we keep using them? So, what we suggest to people is it's really important that you document your buyers and you document those buyer personas to decide how do they want to engage with you? How do they want you to buy? If we're selling a really simple, low-cost consumer product on Instagram, as an example, then people are going to engage with you completely differently than if you're out selling an ERP implementation. ERP implementations are complex. They're confusing. They're tricky to understand. There's a lot of conversation in the channel right now about, moving from products like when's the right time to move from a product like GP to Great Plains. And you need to be able to build trust. And I think I saw somebody throw that in the chat that, trust is the most important thing we can do. And in an era of AI, when it's just so much easier to let the tool do something for you, don't forget to keep thinking like a human being and how would I want somebody to engage with me? And, I really do think that thinking about the human element first and foremost. And we used to build programs all the time, and we always used to say there's only two audiences in the world, human beings and machines. Now that's never been more true. And I think you should always prioritize the human being. before you ask the machine, what can you do to improve a productivity or increase efficiency or do whatever. So quick recap, intellectual property, data security, data and algorithm bias, brand ethics. We'll probably do more research in the beginning of 2025, and we'll probably expand this a little bit. We were talking about events at the top of the hour, and I will be in San Diego in March for the AI Summit that's being put on by Dynamic Communities. And I'll be there talking about responsible AI. And I hope you'll join me and expand this conversation. This is a conversation we have to have all the time. This is not a one and done. Once your policy's up on the website, don't just walk away from it. You really need to be thinking about how this is going to get integrated into your business. We've put together this AI guide that basically recaps the best practices, gives you a bit of a worksheet, points you to some resources if you want to build a policy. Please snap that QR code and download our Responsible AI Guide. And if we take a minute and go back to 1991, that was actually the year I got married, so that was a pretty good year for me. Knowing what you know now about email, what would you tell your boss about this new tool called AI? If you were talking to back in 1991, or you're thinking about now how you think about email, what are you going to tell your boss about this tool called AI? And think about that in terms of what's happening in your organizations. I love some of the comments in the chat here. It's a utility. Yeah, it is a utility, but it also has the ability to run away really fast if we don't think carefully about a number of the things that I brought up today. And so in 2025, I should have changed the slide to say 2025, but I think we can do better this time around about how we educate companies, how we bring these products to market. And I really do think the time is right to have a very different conversation about this tech this time around. So thanks for listening. That's my story. And I'm sticking to it. But thank you so much for letting me share this. And I know when Lydia and I talked a couple months ago about bringing this, I said, are you sure you want me to talk about this? It might not be a popular topic, but thank you very much for letting me do it.
Of course, it's
This
a
was
pleasure to have
awesome.
you. Yes.
Yeah.
Very inspiring. Very.
And I think it's a topic that I feel like a lot of us kind of already use AI without putting a lot of thought to it, because we didn't get to choose the tool. The tool's already there. So I think taking a step back and thinking through, it's awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Also, we need to make sure we update your spelling everywhere. Because
that's okay.
We have it as EI everywhere, so I apologize for that.
As long as you use Anna's pronunciation, I'm good with it. I love it.
I think that in German it's Wiese. I think.
Yeah.
Wiese.
Yes.
Nice. I'm learning German. Great. Thank you very, very much, Mary. I already sent you a message on LinkedIn because I want to keep talking with you. So thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Awesome. And we have our second speaker of today, which maybe you don't know yet. Everyone knows André, so please don't let the guys in the chat laugh at you, because I'm looking at Lasse. Don't let him get into your head. But yeah, André, please take it away. And Lesby, do you want to say anything before we hand over?
No, I was just going to say, we have a poll for you.
There's a poll, so I'm waiting for someone who will take over my session, but we'll come back to that one later. Now, just welcome to Process Mining. It's a utility hosted in Power Automate, and I'll also just talk a bit about how to get then data out of F&O in this presentation. But first, a bit of a recap of me. Actually, until today, I was in Microsoft MVP. Not sure what happens after my word of ChatGPT in the chat here. So I'm waiting and email from Microsoft if I can continue in the program or not. But I started my career just long way back, initially with Navision Financials, which is now known as Dynamics 365 Business Central. And as of 2001, so for about 23 years now, I'm working with the Axapta product, which is now Dynamics 365 for Finance and Operations. I'll talk about today just a quick introduction. What is process mining? Also, then just show what is available in Power Automate with process mining capabilities and a bit of introduction to a desktop application, which is also available. And then just talk about some Dynamics 365 Finance and Operations processes, which can be used for process mining. But first, what is process mining? Actually, a Dutch person started with it on a university to bring some sciences in analytics of data. And that was all based on events and then representing it in just a graphical overview to see if there are any bottlenecks in just a particular process. What for can you use it? You can use it for process discovery, provide a lot of just details in an event log. Could be maybe coming from even an IoT device, where you just see what is happening and how is it flowing around. If you know about the process already, you can also do a conformance checking. Is the process really working as we want it to have an organization, or what kind of variations do we have in this process? And also see performance-wise, are there any bottlenecks, maybe just with an activity itself, or maybe there are long waiting times between activities, and then see how to improve or what are the bottlenecks. And it's all about process mining. How is my process going? And the intention would be how and where can I improve my process? If you talk about process mining, then maybe you also heard about task mining. There's a small difference between those two. Process mining is more from end to end, check what is happening. If you take, for example, an order to cash process, then you might start with a quotation, then sales order, and end with an invoice and just getting paid by the customer. For the task mining, then you would just look at what an individual user is doing in an application to fulfill a certain task. And also process mining capability by Microsoft offers both. And today I will just only talk about process mining. There's only 20 minutes, and so I need to be quick in just giving a small introduction here. Process mining itself is based on event logs, and an event log is just a source data file having some activities together with timestamps and some maybe relevant attributes to identify what happened in a particular process instance. There are 3 attributes mandatory, meaning you need to have a case ID, and case ID in the order to cash process could be a sales order, as an example. And for workflow, it could be a workflow instance. The activity is a description, which will then identify what type of activity was used. And for the timestamp, at minimum, you need a start date time. Optionally, you can also have an end date time. And I will just also quickly show what is the difference between if you have it or not during a demo. And you can also have multiple additional attributes to be able to do some filtering or analysis, checking out is it certain actions different per user, or maybe it's per location, per company, maybe per shift. That can be then added as attributes in an event log. Microsoft has two types of process mining tools available. They created a cloud application, which is currently hosted in Power Automate, where Microsoft offers an option for task mining and also process mining. And from there, you can see some KPIs, maps, graphs, do a small type of analysis. And you can even, with a preview of Copilot, ask some questions about the process. Then Microsoft also offers a desktop application of process mining, which was initially an acquisition from the Minit product. And those products are now fully integrated with each other. If you start your process of process mining in Power Automate in the cloud, then you can use the same process also in the Minit desktop application, which has more options for some powerful analysis options. But I will just briefly touch that in my presentation. I will just go to Power Automate, where I will show you where you can find process mining and how to get started. Process mining is one of the menu options. If it's not visible for you directly, then you can click on more and just click it or pin it. If you go to process mining, then initially the first time it will offer you just to get started with a trial, or if you already have licenses, you can just continue. It also just mentions you can download an app, which I already did. But if you already had downloaded it and try it again, then it will check if there's an update available. For creating a new process, you can just start here. I will come back to that one a bit later. If you say, I want to just have an overview with some demo data, you can click on Show me a finance or Show me a supply chain process. Both of these data files are just example data, and they don't have any relation with Business Central or finance operations. If you just click on Give me a finance process, it will start loading data and creating the report for you. But I already have one, so I will go back and then click on the sample accounts receivable. It will load a BI report with a visualization of the map of all activities. It will also show you a path, which is just the different variations in your process. So if you think, well, I have a process with a guide, this is how you should do a sales process, for example, then still the question, why do you have different variations? If you look at that process a bit more closely, you can also zoom in. It starts here with an invoice entry. The number of occurrences is listed, and there are two options here and several options. Sometimes it goes back. Then probably it was something rejected or needs to do some rework. And instead of looking at the count, you can also go to performance and see then also highlighted with thin or thick red what is consuming the most time. It has an option for total duration, but also a mean, so on average, the maximum or some minimum durations. And why would you focus, for example, on minimum durations? That could be, as example, with a workflow mining. In case someone is able to just look and approve a timesheet within 3 seconds, then probably that person will not take his work seriously. So we go back to the overview with the processes, just the process mining. You can also just click and see what's happening on Show me a supply chain process. Another option, I'll come back to that one later. First, if you want to start a new process, then you can first start with a process name, and I just created some examples with a barbershop. It's also something which you can find on my website. And here you have the option to also choose between process mining or task mining. With task mining, you should also just do a recording using the Power Automate desktop version. In case you have certain BI developers and want to have the visualizations different than the standard, you can also provide an own Power BI workspace. I will skip this for today. If you want to connect your data, there are several connectors available. Simple connectors like an Excel, text, XML, maybe an Access database, an SQL database, SAP. If you look at what is available here, there's no connector for Business Central and also no connector for Finance Operations directly. So you would need to find other options like providing files or maybe connect to a Dataverse if you have a table in Dataverse with some data compiled. You can also use a web API, which is also used by Microsoft in background for warehouse analysis. If you take a file, in this case, I will just browse my own OneDrive. You can select a file, then it will start reading the data in it, analyzing what type of fields are used. It will then open also a Power Query page where you can set some filters or transform some data before bringing it to process mining. And in this case, I will not do any additional filtering. And then the last page, then you can map all the attribute names in your file with an attribute type for process mining. And it says you need to have a case ID, activity, and event start. The case ID can be linked as a type case ID, an activity name as activity, a timestamp start and an end. Then all the others can be set as an event or a case level attribute. If you look at just the barber itself, then that barber will be a case level. It will be the same for the whole case. And the person who just is being treated for a haircut is also the same for the whole one. But if there was any shampoo or other finish, that could be on an event itself. And you can check if the fields are now green, so the mandatory fields are set. Then you can save and start analyze the data, which will build your report. This can take up to 2 minutes, but also depending on how many records you have available. Just while this is loading, I will just initially quickly go to Finance and Operations. This is up. I need to move this a bit around. And while listening to Marie, my Finance Operations session fell asleep. For warehouse management, Microsoft brought in an option which is currently in preview to do some process mining on warehouse material movement. So all the warehouse work being executed in your warehouse. You can do some setup. Do you want to see it based on a location or warehouse zone and for which legal entity and what is the refresh frequency? And if you then want to look at the results, you can either go to Power Automate for the process mining part, or you can also view the data in a workspace in Finance Operations itself. Or for example, if you want to look at the location, it will show you all the movements, and the demo data is not that extensive here. But instead of just the total count, you can also look at the performance. And what you see in this example is not only just the time between the activities, which can be just a bottleneck, but also an activity on the location itself. And if you have just a long duration, in this case on a floor, then maybe there's some wrapping in the way. And if some other things are just taking a long time, then you can also do more in-depth analysis. And I heard a good use case also and a root cause from last night, where in an implementation where just at a client where he works, they did use the warehouse management process mining part and found out that there was a particular shift which was not just taking their work that serious, and that they did not perform like other shifts did. So that's a way how to just look at when and where to look at certain details. But also, if you want to know what is really ongoing on this floor location, maybe as a manager, you should go in the warehouse and look for yourself what is happening over there. Before I will just continue with some other options, I also promised to go to the desktop application. If you open the desktop application, you can just like any Power Platform environment, you can select your environment. In this case, it's just my sandbox, and the same processes which you have loaded on the cloud is also visible over here. If you click on refresh, it will just load again everything which is available. For example, now also the barbershop is available. If you just open a particular process, you will get some options to do more with filtering. Also from here, you can look at the duration times, etc. But at the left side, you have some options for some statistics, root cause analysis, a few more about variance, but also you can create multiple views with filters, for example, different locations, and then you can compare if there's a difference, for example, between different locations in how they are using the process. I need to be time aware. I will just also go to some customization options I did and also shared on a blog. Then I will go back to my sessions over here. One option could be just look at all the workflow instances in finance operations, and for this purpose I created a data entity which is also available on my blog, where you can download an example. Over here you can look at all occurrences. You can see, for example, a split in an automatic action, if there was an automatic approval or not, if there was a rejection or some rework. That can be analyzed and see what happens, but also again here you can look at the performance in the time where this is just the Contoso demo data, which is not that useful to start process mining, but if you use this in a customer environment, you will get more details on this. And what you can do over here is also then see the workflow has some variations as well, what is going on over here. This one is used with a data entity and a web API. That is in this case possible because it was only two tables which could be combined. What I also did do is create an example for an order to cash, where I used a Synapse or Fabric link to get tables exported in a lakehouse. And then I used the SQL endpoint to create an union query, getting data from different tables, the orders, the confirmations, the packing slips, the invoices, but also I linked the payments. And initially, when you look at how is that performing on a Contoso environment, then it's a complete mess over here, where you think what is going on. It starts, for example, with a packing slip and it ends with the order creation, and that's due to how the demo data in Contoso is being set up. If you use this on an environment or just clean up the environment, what I just did do, then it looks much brighter. Then you can see options like the sales order was created, then there are two options. Either the sales packing slip will be posted, or it will first send a confirmation and then it will go to the packing slip. And now it would be interesting to see why and what are the differences between creating a sales order and directly post a packing slip or first a confirmation. Maybe you want to have always a confirmation and you can see, hey, something is going on here. But you can also just see how many sales orders were cancelled, and at the end, if the sales invoice was posted and how many were already paid. But also during the time, you can see that after an invoice, it takes on average a long time to get the invoices paid. So in that case, maybe you should go and just have more professional persons at your collections department to get money paid earlier. I'll go back to the presentation, but before that, I wrote several blogs also about how to get started with process mining and until use a data entity for the workflow example I showed. I'm currently working on also a video with a demo for how to use the order to cash process. That will also be published probably already this weekend on my blog post. And for every post on process mining, I also supported them with some videos, tutorials, how to get started. So just the quick summary I did do now in 20 minutes is explained in more words and more videos. Go back to the PowerPoint. You can find more information on Microsoft Learn about an overview of process mining. And then also on my blog, I wrote several blogs about process mining, but more with the twist of finance and operations, and also created a YouTube channel with some videos, and I will just extend this in the future as well. Again, just if you have any questions, just get in touch and connect with me afterwards. I'm happy to answer questions, but I would also like to hear if you have any use cases or experiences about process mining, what happened, or just what went well, or share some thoughts. I'm open for that as well. And thank you for attending.
I would also recommend to everyone that joined the call to subscribe to André's Dynamics. How do you say Dynamicspedia, right?
Sorry?
How is the name of your website? I cannot remember. Is it Dynamicspedia?
Dynamicspedia.com, yes.
Exactly. Subscribe because he sends regularly like what is new, which is the newest, like the newest, the recent posts, so you can keep up. And yeah, I just wanted to say, André, thank you so much. I think that this is a product that we're not really using as much as we should, and it gives so much information that it just makes sense that we start adopting as part of our, day-to-day work. Oh,
It's Laza again.
Yes.
You want to have a TikTok account?
I think we need a session where you two go debate together. I think it'll be very fun.
Yeah, well, we will do it Dynamics Minds. I love
yeah,
it.
well,
I hate
we
it.
already have it scheduled. It's already scheduled.
Oh, nice.
I want to be on that call. I want to see that call come to life. That's
It will
amazing.
be in person, Dwayne.
It'll be only in person.
Yes.
Fine, only in person. We will share the stage this time.
Oh my
Excellent.
God. But yeah, André, again, thank you so much. Yeah, you're really good at explaining, and I think that this is a great topic that you're leading. And if someone asks about process mining, the only face that comes to my mind is yours. So you're doing a great job there.
Thank you.
Of course. V, do you want to take it away?
All I could say is thank you all for joining. It is the end of the year, so I hope you all take some time to take a break, enjoy time with your family, and we will be back for the new year with more exciting topics. And thank you for having me as a co-host.
Of course.
Don't worry, Lydia will be back next time around.
Thank you so much, B. It's been great to have you here, and I'm really grateful for you being able to come, join me and host this this call.
Of course. And thank you so much for our speakers. And next time we will have our winners for the badge announced too. So continue joining us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone, and happy
Thank you.
Christmas and holidays
Bye-bye.
and everything.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.
Happy holidays.
Thanks,
Bye bye.
everyone. Happy holidays.
Bye, everyone.